Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday morning coffee hour. This morning we've got Alysen Tarrant with us. She is an environmental permit specialist and also our newest board member on the State Conservation Board representing the San Juan watershed. And this morning she's going to be talking about responding to public notices for reclamation, mining, and safety. I know a lot of conservation districts get those notices. And there's a question about what do you do when you get them and how can you respond? So Allie is going to cover that this morning. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Allie?
Thanks, Garth. So without any further ado, like Garth said, my name is Alysen Tarrant. I'm an environmental permit specialist. I've worked in the environmental permitting realm since 2006, and my specialty is in National Environmental Policy Act. So a lot of what I'm going to be discussing today is geared toward basically how a permit writer would want you to respond so that you can see from our perspective what we're looking for so that you can put together what you need to respond clearly and succinctly. So first and foremost, introduction. What is a public notice? First of all, can everyone see my PowerPoint? Is it visible? Yeah? Okay, good. So what is a public notice? A public notice or public comment period or public scoping process is a fixed amount of time granted by governmental bodies for the receipt of comments from the public. So basically what that means is when actions are going to go forward on lands that are managed by the Bureau of Land Management or the Forest Service, those lands that are publicly accessed, we want your comments to see what you would like to have happen once that activity is done. And so this is your chance to basically let your voice be heard. And why are you as a district receiving one? You are receiving a request for public comment because as a district, you have the duty of overseeing the long-range plan, the health and safety of the environment in that area, and also just working with the landowners to make sure that what goes on in your district conforms with the long-range plan. So there are three types of public notices. The first one that we'll be discussing is with the Bureau of Land Management. Now this one is through the e-planning. It's a National Environmental Policy Act. Basically, it's a board that you go to, and we'll go on a little virtual field trip in just a second. And so you can see how the register has all of the public openings available for you to look at and comment. The second one is actions that occur on Forest Service land. Now these actions, just like the BLM, it's through the NEPA process. And so again, we're looking for comments and questions geared toward the environmental compliance of things, how you'd like to see it reclaimed, stuff like that. And then the actions occurring on mixed lands and private lands, that is through the Colorado Division of Reclamation, Mining, and Safety. And so usually with larger projects or projects that involve any kind of public land, you will see the actions occurring and the public notices posted on either the BLM register or the Forest Service register, as well as the Colorado Division register as well. So you have multiple opportunities to comment. I just wanted to put that out there because one of the questions was, well, it's only 14 days. How can we get more time? You are able to get more time if you go through one of these up or two, the BLM or the Forest Service. And we'll get into that later on. So let's go on a virtual field trip. Right now, this is what the BLM looks like. So basically what you see here, this is the BLM National NEPA Register. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to go down and click on Colorado and then show only open participation periods. So these are the ones that are open right now for public comment. And then you click search. And you can see the little green dots. These are the green dots that are basically active projects that are seeking input. So you go to a green dot that's in your conservation district, you click on that green dot and you see, okay, there's a project happening in my district. This is RMP, stands for Resource Management Plan. So what that is, a resource management plan is basically where the Bureau of Land Management goes through and updates its entire land use project, basically how it wants resources in your district to be managed. So although this isn't specifically mining related, this is another topic that would be well advised for you to maybe consider commenting on, because as a resource manager, this is a good opportunity for you to say, you know, what kind of seed mixes you like, what your goals are for resources managed in your district. So you go over here, you can click on this, and this brings you up to the actual page where it tells you basically what the resource management plan is doing. That's a public scoping period that goes until February 20th. So you have plenty of time to respond if you want to. And you can see all of the documents available. So a lot of it, I completely understand that this can be a little bit overwhelming at first, but once you start digging in, you'll see that it is pretty well organized. Just go into the fact sheet mostly and see what it's about. If you do want to comment, you just click on the participate now and fill in your information. And we'll get into what to respond and how to respond in just a second. All right. So let's see. Apologies, my mouse isn't working that well. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint. Can everyone see the PowerPoint? It's just acting a little.
I can see your PowerPoint, but it's in the, oh, there we go. Now you're back in presentation.
Okay, perfect. Good. Okay, so like I said, the BLM National NEPA Register, and this information, this PowerPoint can be available to anyone who wants it. Garth has a copy. Feel free to email him or email me directly and I can get you a copy of it. The links are all at the bottom right here, and they're also embedded in the PowerPoint itself. So again, that's the BLM portion. Bureau of Land Management is a very large landowner. So again, I'd strongly encourage you to just browse around this website, get familiar with it. The next one is the Forest Service. The Forest Service is not as straightforward as the BLM, but it's still pretty well managed. So what you do, this is the schedule of proposed actions. And so what the Forest Service does is it actually lays out all of the proposed actions for the upcoming year, like the entire year. They release it every quarter. So you basically have 3 months to then prepare yourself for anything that's coming down the pipeline in your district. And that's a pretty cool thing too. So for the Forest Service page, you, again, it's SOPA or Schedule of Proposed Actions. You basically scroll down and you click on the map and you see that there's a map of Colorado, and you just click on the, basically the forest area that's in your conservation district. And if you pull that up, then it gives you a whole long list of actions that are basically going to be coming up, and so that you can prepare yourselves if you want to comment on them, etc. And so this one, as you can see, the Forest Service has a very long lead time, whereas the BLM, it's like, you know, we're going out for public comment now, you have 30 days and that's it. The Forest Service gives you 3 months to a year. So it's really easy to just go in and start looking around these, seeing what is coming down the pipeline. Again, not all of it is mining related, but there are some mining activities that are going to be happening. So look at it, click on the links, and that'll send you to an individual page where you can then comment on the project. So again, you have plenty of time with Forest Service. Take your time to really delve into those proposals if you want to. Otherwise, it's just a good resource to see what's coming up in your district. And this includes grazing permits. It includes any type of solar activities, right-of-ways, transmission lines. The same thing with BLM. It has everything, not just mining related. So it's really good to just keep an eye on these areas. And so then the last one, the Colorado Division of Reclamation, Mining, and Safety. This one was covered in really good detail by the regulators in the other coffee hour, but just really quickly going to go through this. So here, if you just go to the mining dashboard, you can see the applications for new mining operations as well as applications for revisions. So what I like to do, just you can all do it differently, but what I like to do is when I open up, for example, the applications for new mining operations, I go to column A and I sort by in alphabetical order. That way I can scroll down to my specific county, and I can see what's happening in my county. That's just, we're all wired a little differently. I just recommend that's how I like to do it. And so then what you can do is after you find actions in your county, you scroll over to column I, and you can click on the link and it'll pull up all of the information. And again, it's a little overwhelming because it'll just have lists and lists and lists of PDF documents. Browse through a couple of them, see where you are, and basically what the actual proposed operation is. So a real rudimentary, cursory view of that. But again, the best way to learn is just by practicing. Go to these websites, experiment with the different types of settings that you can have, and really just delve into what's available for your district in terms of the BLM, Forest Service, and the mining dashboard. That's honestly the best way to learn. So once you've learned about the different operations, at that time you can file a comment or an objection by clicking the link and submitting either just a PDF or Word document, or filling in long form in the actual form itself. So that's where I'm going to now segue into how you should respond and what should be included in your response. So this is the nitty gritty. What I covered before is just kind of the administrative side of things. But now we're getting into the real heart of the matter, and that is what do you as a district need to know in order to respond effectively to these public notices. The first thing that should be known is the disturbance location. Where in the district is the disturbance going to be located? Is it going to be near a waterway? Is it going to be near a farm? Is it going to be within one of your rangeland areas? These things are important to know so that when you comment, you can comment to represent your constituents in that area. The other important thing to know is what is the land currently used for? Again, if it's rangeland right now and someone's planning on disturbing it for mining activities, how many AUMs is going to be reduced, and what is that impact or potential impact to the rancher? How can we mitigate that? Are there ways that we can overcome that reduction in AUMs by having better strategic rangeland areas and other locations? All these things are important to know so that when you respond, especially for large projects, you can respond in a way that the constituents know that they are their voices are being heard. And also, are there any landowners nearby that may be affected? Downstream farms that could potentially have contaminants running on their property due to mismanagement of outfalls. It doesn't happen, fortunately, very often, if at all, in Colorado, but these are things that need to be known. Where is the disturbance specific to the landowners in terms of downwind potential air quality metrics? And so then we go into the type, the disturbance type. For a mining operation, it's mostly just either open pit or underground. If it's an open pit mining operation, it'll have more fugitive dust available. So again, where are your neighbors? How could they potentially be affected? And what are the mitigation measures that could be put in place to reduce those impacts? And how large is it in terms of the actual ground clearance? Again, if right now it's being used for rangeland and they want to take away 1,000 acres, how will that impact the local ranchers and the downstream producers? And then how long will the disturbance last? Now, this thing, as a permit writer, this is a really important question to ask, because when we write a permit for NEPA, we categorize disturbance longevity as either short-term, mid-term, long-term, or permanent. Short-term, temporary, means that it's only a couple months. Long-term or mid-term is maybe a year, 2 years. That would be like construction yards that are then reseeded. Long-term it basically could be 30 years, but it's still considered long-term and not permanent. So how long the disturbance will last is extremely important to know how you can manage the land in your district effectively, knowing that this operation is going to continue for 30 years. And also importantly, will the project use any deleterious materials? Like, will there be fuels or chemicals? If it's like, a gold operation, are they going to be using cyanide? Where is the cyanide going to be kept? Where is their stormwater pollution prevention plan? Getting into the nitty gritty is not particularly your job, but just knowing the potential constituents involved, contaminants involved will help you be more equipped if a landowner comes and asks questions, and you can say, yes, this is what they're doing, this is how they're mitigating it, this is what we are going to be doing to make sure that they comply with their requirements. And then lastly, and in my opinion, most importantly for you as a district, that is the reclamation standards. Once the site is done and they want to reclaim it, how are they going to reclaim it? This is where we get into the ecological site descriptions. These are basically the specific types of vegetation that occur within that area pre-disturbance. What are they right now? And what do you want them to be once the mining operation shuts down and reclaims? So knowing the ecological site description is extremely important because that will allow you to see whether or not, once they're done disturbing it, have they put it back correctly? If you have a specific seed mix that you like here in the southwest part of Colorado, we are really advancing forward with a drought-tolerant seed mix of native grasses and forbs. Do you, as a district, have a specific seed mix that you like, that you're trying to advance, that's drought tolerant, that is established quickly so that it does not encourage noxious weeds and invasive species to occur? If you do have a specific seed mix, then that is absolutely something to look out for and something to comment with. And then also, how will the site be reclaimed? Like, if it's just a flat piece of land, do you want it to be scarified and tilled and then seeded? Do you want it to just be seeded? This is your chance to really show what you as a district would like to see, and potentially even just push forward the seeding methods that you think are in the best interest of soil conservation. So when to respond. Now, again, I had talked a lot about basically what we are looking for as permit writers. So what you can do as a district to respond quickly and effectively is just put together literally just a basic template of this information. So you start by just asking your district, do we have a water management plan? Do we have a map of our rivers, streams, drainages, lakes, ponds? Do we know what kind of surface water or groundwater resources we have? And do we have a plan to protect those? Do we talk with our irrigators and our landowners about how they manage runoff? And do we have a goal for protecting our watershed? If you have all of these things listed, then I strongly recommend taking that bullet point list, putting it in a template document, and just start categorizing everything that you have so that you can just submit that quickly and easily to the agencies. The same thing with the land use plan. Do you have a goal for sustainable land use? Do you have a preferred land use based on the district's specific parameters? For example, if you have a lot of rangeland in your district, would you like that rangeland to continue? Have you seen issues with encroachment of weeds that you would like to mitigate against by encouraging mining companies to plant or to use a specific seed mix? Would you like them to do an interim seed mix on their disturbances that they will only intermittently disturb? These things are should be put into a land use plan. And it's not just, again, for mining companies. It could even be temporary laydown yards associated with earthwork or road work construction. This is something that you could use for your counties as well, and say, if you're going to be disturbing land, then we want you to use this seed mix so that we don't have an issue with weeds. And this builds like an annual seed base that then allows the perennials to take control. And also the same thing with a fire adaptation and resiliency. If you already have a plan like this, That's awesome. Let's get that put together into a really quick template document so that you can say, okay, if you're going to be disturbing this, then you need to make sure that you have a fire break to prevent any kind of wildfires. Or, if they do have a lot of trees that need to be cut down, where are they going to be stockpiling those, or how are they going to be mulching those for use in later reclamation projects? And again, like I talked about, the preferred seed mix. Again, I cannot stress this enough. If you have a preferred seed mix, district-wide or specific to areas within the district, please, we as permit writers want to see that incorporated into mining plans as a guarantee that when the land gets turned back over to the public, it meets the specifications of the long-term goals. And that goes into the preferred seeding method. Right now, we're really pushing on the no-till drill seeding. In some areas, though, would you prefer standard tilling, or would you prefer hydro seeding, such as on slopes or other areas? And for large areas, would you prefer aerial seeding? And if so, what would be the seed mix and the pounds per acre for each type of seeding method used? So a lot of this information, I can bet you already have a lot of this. It just needs to be taken and put into like a quick 1 to 2 page template with bullet points for each of these things: water management plan, land use plan, seed mix, and seeding method. And that'll cover most of any of the public comments that you are requested to work with. And so that goes into if more information needs to be known, ask yourself, do we know our ecological site descriptions? NRCS obviously is a great resource for this. They pretty much built the repository of information on that. But if you don't have quick access to your NRCS rep, then I recommend going to this site, the Ecosystems Dynamics Interpretive Tool. This is put on by the University of New Mexico. It's a free site, and it provides a complete ecological base map for the entire Western US. It is extremely useful. And so what you do is you go in here, you look at your area, you look at where the proposed disturbance is going to be located, and you can actually see what type of plants are there now, and in what quantity, what percentage of the plants there are grasses, what percentage are forbs, trees, shrubs. And so you can actually put together a baseline minimum requirement that you would like to see before the state of Colorado says that this site is reclaimed and the liability of the mining company is released. Another important thing to know is, do you know the extent of your watershed and the contaminants to watch out for? For example, do you have issues about salinity entering the watershed? Do you have an over allocation issue where if a big mining company is going to come in and say that they want to drill 5 wells and they want to extract 1,000 acre feet a year for their operation, how will that affect your constituents? How will that affect your long-term stability for your watershed? And the big issues, obviously, facing the district. Do you have specific noxious weed problems in your district? Do you have salinity issues, fire, runoff, land instability? All of these things, if you know what your the big issues are, then you can make sure that what you require of the mining company makes sure to mitigate these big issues as much as possible.
And Ali, another resource that Cindy mentions in the chat is the web soil survey for districts to find out more information.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Cindy. That's very important too. And the web soil survey, just like the ecological database, that's specific to soils. And it is a huge tool that's very easily accessible. And I can, Cindy, if you haven't put that link in the chat, I can do that after this. But yeah, very good point. Okay, so now the big question, when to respond. So honestly, always respond. When in doubt, always respond. And respond with the template, unless it's a very large project. So again, in terms of the permit writing, we have 3 different categories of projects. We have small projects called categorical exclusions, which are generally like less than 5 acres. This would be exploration areas that are in non-contentious areas that are under 5 acres of disturbance. It could be a right-of-way to a power line from a farm, for example, if it had to cross federal lands. So categorical exclusions do not go out for public comment. They, like I said, they're under 5 acres. They're really kind of just done. That being said, if there are cultural issues or biological issues, then obviously it will get kicked up to a larger project. So it's very area specific. And then the next size of operation or disturbance type is called an environmental assessment level, or an EA. And these are ones that don't have clear impacts per se, but they will cause at least some kind of temporary or long-term effect on the environment. So they're not going to be impacting waters, they're not going to be impacting things, but they are going to be causing disturbances. And so this environmental assessment, this EA, that usually goes out for at least one, sometimes two 30-day public comment notices on either the BLM or the Forest Service website. And those are good to just give the template, like I was saying, just put together a template with the water resources, land resources, and really specifically the reclamation standards, and just literally submit that as a comment. For the large projects, so the environmental impact statements, I strongly recommend taking the time to do the research. These projects usually take around 3 to 10 years to actually get through the permit process. So you will have ample opportunity to comment on this. But an environmental impact statement is basically a project that has been proposed that will have an impact. It will have to have an eagle take permit, for example, or it will be in an area that potentially has critical habitat for endangered species. It will have a huge cumulative effects on cultural resources. So these types of actions, when they are analyzed, it is strongly encouraged that the districts get involved and take the time to get the research in front of them so that you can equip yourselves and your constituents with the information that's going to be going out as a final document whenever it does. So environmental impact statements, these are very, very large projects, but they also include the resource management plans, like I was saying earlier. So when the Bureau of Land Management, every 10 years, they have to redo their resource management plan. And realistically, they should be consulting with you, the districts, to see how you would like the area to be managed as well. So getting in and requesting to have to be a participating agency or just a participating member in these resource management plans will allow your voices to be heard, so that when actions occur on federal lands that would reduce rangeland or otherwise affect one of your stakeholders, you can be aware of that and get ahead of that before it becomes an issue. And then again, smaller projects, just put together a basic template response using the information that you most likely already have. Water management plan, land use plan, seed mix, and seeding method. So district specific requirements. Now this for water management, this is basically like a more in-depth description of what you should put in your template for the response. Make sure that the mining company has a runoff control plan that meets your district's water management plan. Make sure that they don't have outfalls. If they do exploration activities, they need to use straw filters or some kind of catchment so that they're not introducing sediments into the nearby streams. And request to receive copies of the water quality testing. This is actually a great way to build a repository of information that's already available publicly. So if a mining company has water wells that they have to test quarterly, request that information. You can build this database of great water quality data for your district, so that if anyone ever has questions on the water quantity or quality, you have it at your fingertips. So I strongly recommend just getting on the mailer and asking to be sent this information. Also, if you want to, like, for example, if there's a mining operation that's going to occur right by a water body or right by a large grower, request copies of their safety data sheet to make sure that they know what contaminants or chemicals they have on site, and make sure that they know how to control those. And that includes requesting the company's stormwater pollution prevention plan, which is basically a plan that says you as a company know how to moderate your environment, and you will not allow anything to go off your property. Make sure that you have that, so that if anything ever happens, you can call them up and be like, hey, you know, we have an issue here, and you can remind them that they have laws that they need to fall under. For the district specific requirements for reclamation standards, again, I cannot stress this enough. What type of seed mixer do you recommend? Even if you have a type of seed mix that you would like to just experiment with, that this is a fantastic opportunity to request that they do test plots of different seeding types and seeding methods to see which one is most effective on their property. And also, if you want trees, if you think that this area, like there were some old growth trees in that area that's going to be disturbed, make sure that they plant trees as part of the reclamation process. And what type of ground contouring is most stable? If they're on flat land, then do you want it to have swales and slopes, or do you want it to be flat? If it's on sloped land, would you like it to be terraced? How would you like the drainage to be controlled? Just anything that you have that you would like to see that you've found successful in your district, make sure that the mining companies are held to that same standard. And for the Colorado division side of things, what they really want to know is this site deemed satisfactory for liability release? Basically, has this site been reclaimed to your standards? Is the seed mix good? Is it mostly native? Do you have any noxious weeds that they need to mitigate before you can say that they are released from their liability? Do they have trees in the correct locations? And will their reclamation ensure that there isn't a long-term problem with stormwater control? So the state of Colorado really likes to hear from you, the districts, to know whether or not you are comfortable and you think that the reclamation has been satisfactorily completed, so that the soils and water in your district are protected. So in conclusion, when in doubt, always respond. Again, for the large projects, take the time, do the research. But for the smaller projects, just put together a template. Like I said, it could be 1 to 2 pages of just bullet points of what you want to see. You don't even have to read the documents, just literally submit it, because the agencies, we will have to read it and incorporate it. And so if it's already included in their mine plan, that's great. If it's not included, we know to make the company include that. So it's always good to respond, especially if you don't have the time or the resources to do the initial research. Just put together the template of information specific to your site and get that in front of the permit writers, so that we can make sure that you are comfortable with what the mining company is going to be doing and how it's going to be reclaimed. So it was a little faster than I expected, but I guess we have lots of time for questions. So I guess I will turn it over to the general board here, the group, to see if you have any specific questions that I can answer.
All right, I don't see any in the chat. Are there anybody have any questions? They can raise their hands, put it in the chat, or just unmute themselves.
Hey, Allie. How are you? Hi. Hey, I was typing away just about the time you were ending your deal. Oftentimes, it's been my experience anyway, district boards and staff don't have the expertise to put a lot of this kind of information together. And do you have suggestions of who they can reach out to help them with water management plans and seed mixes and things like that? Not just NRCS, but, you know, just whatever.
So for the seed mixes, honestly, I would talk to the, if you have ranchers in your area and if you want to talk with the ranchers and sit and just ask them, what do their cattle like best? What grows most effectively in this area? Just getting some basic information during the working groups would be a great way to ask these questions of the growers and the land managers themselves. So for seed mixes, I strongly just recommend going directly to the ranchers and seeing what they would like to see, what the cattle likes, and what is the most effective in this area.
That's a good answer. They are actually fairly knowledgeable about that stuff. But BLM and NRCS and things like that are also resources. That's all I wanted to ask you.
Yep,
Hey,
absolutely. And
thank you for that presentation.
yes. And for the water management, honestly, your watersheds should have at least some of the information for that. I know that the Colorado State Conservation Board and also the water, your water districts, for example, in Southwest Colorado, the Southwest Water Conservation District should have a lot of that information. So just sending an email or just asking them if they have anything that they would like to include, so that this could be a collaborative effort to just put this packet together so that perhaps the district could respond on behalf of multiple different agencies or representatives.
Marissa makes a comment that CPW has a great new seed app, which I've heard about, but I've not used yet, but I've heard it's pretty good. And then she also mentioned that her seed vendor is a great resource. And I might add too that a lot of districts have partners that they can contact about various issues like that. Because a lot of this is local. And then also just reaching out to your neighboring conservation districts might be a good resource for some of that.
So, and I apologize. Go, Richard.
Yes, oftentimes when we get the release of bond notices, especially for gravel pits, that's on private land. How would you go about addressing that?
So private land in the state of Colorado still has to get the approval of the Colorado mining division in order to get released of their liability. So working directly with the Division of Mines, Reclamation, Mines, and Safety would ensure that your voice is heard regardless of land status, because they will not be released unless the state is sure that what they are releasing of liability meets the standards of all of the public in the state of Colorado.
Right, but oftentimes it's not something you can see from the road or anything like that. So you'd have to go on the property if you really wanted to look and see if that's been successfully reclaimed. So would you get the landowner's name from the Mineland Reclamation folks, or how would you do that?
Yes, all of the contact information for the mining companies or aggregate companies are on that web page that I showed you. You could either contact them directly, which I don't, more often than not, I would not particularly recommend that route, just because sometimes contentions could arise as a result of that. Instead, I would encourage you to get in contact with the assigned state representative and see if you could tag along on their inspections. That's generally what I've seen work. In other places, I've worked in Colorado or California, Nevada, and Utah, and usually how conservation districts are given the biggest voice is to actually tag along or piggyback with the state itself instead of trying to reach out directly, because sometimes it's just not the friendliest encounter.
Okay, thank you. That's good advice.
And I know that the state representatives are very, very willing to work with the districts and would love the opportunity to meet with you and discuss any concerns you have.
All right, I see Marissa also makes another comment. My NRCS soil cons also partner on our mixes, we reevaluate periodically. So thanks for that, Marissa.
Yeah, and one of the things that was mentioned during the most recent CACD CSCB annual meeting was the working groups, encouraging the districts to really go, partner with NRCS for these working groups with the landowners to get their perspective, and also with the partners such as, for example, the water district. So basically having a working group and asking these questions as part of that working group would be a good way to start building this template of information, because like Garth said, we have a lot of partnerships. We have a lot of this information already available. It may just be dispersed, and it needs to just be compiled into one easy to read, easy to use document. And on that note, Garth, I know that a lot of us utilize Google Drive. I don't know if there's a way that we could do like a collaborative sharing amongst districts, so that we could like start putting a template together that all districts can use if they wanted to, and just start getting that repository put together so that it doesn't seem like such an overwhelming task.
I think that's a great idea. I don't know, I'd have to check with some folks, but I think maybe that's a possibility. We can look into that for sure.
Perfect. Yeah, because a lot of the information, especially water management, I know the state of Colorado has a huge database that's, the districts could access it. And just if it's compiled into one location, it might just be a little bit easier for us all to start working on a document collaboratively.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, I appreciate everybody's time this morning. And Ali, I found this incredibly informative. So thank you so much. I know a lot of districts have been asking about this. So thank you so much again for participating in our coffee hour. And welcome to the state board as well again. But last chance for any questions. All right. Well, we will be sending out an email with the copy of the PowerPoint, as well as some contact information if you need any follow-up with Ali. And then we will be doing a coffee hour next month, topic to be determined. So I just want to say thanks again for everybody, and we'll go ahead and end the coffee hour here.
One thing to note, Garth, sorry, just really quick. If any of you have any interest in hearing a second follow-up coffee hour specific to the National Environmental Policy Act and the different nuances involved in that, just let me know. That's one thing that, again, it's my passion, and being equipped with the information is how we can overcome some of the issues that we're dealing with right now.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and have a great rest of your week.